We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are conducting life-changing research that solves the problems of today. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. Now we're going to do things a little different. We are going to provide an honest look at Ole Miss athletics for the fan, by the fan, and of the fan. That is what we do. Hell be to me. I'm just kidding. Tune in for some Ole Miss sports news. We're going to give it to you straight. Yeah, right now. The POMcast starts now. It happens now. Holy cow. Listen to me. It's starting. Well, it's going to start right about now. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the POMcast. I'm your host on this magical mystery tour we call Ole Miss Fandom, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for joining me today. We've got a little bit to go into. Today I'm going to talk about the things I want to see this football season from Ole Miss football. This will be important for the next step. This will be important. And if it all comes together, it could be quite a special season. But we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about Orlando Umana from Utah, who Matt Zenitz from On3 Sports just tweeted out that he is a potential transfer target of Ole Miss. No final word. I'm not going to assume that anybody's right, but we're going to talk about him just a little bit at the beginning. Matt Zenitz on 3sports.com. On 3 Sports, by the way, we'll talk about that a little bit during the show today too. Big things expected from those guys. That's going to be created by Shannon Terry. It's his new startup who has started up Rivals and has started up 24/7. One thing's for certain, he's incredibly efficient with what he does, and what he chooses to do tends to be successful. So he has a good read on the market. But anyway, this is coming from Matt Zenitz of On3 Sports. Real quick, I do want to tell you how you can watch the show. We're available on Twitter at The Stephen Willis or at The Rebel Walk. We're available at Facebook at facebook.com/The Rebel Walk or POMcast /POMcast, POMcast. Hit follow, hit like, do us a favor there. Also, we're on YouTube at Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe, hit the bell. You'll not only know that we're streaming, you'll know what we're streaming about. And we're on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss. And surprise, surprise, starting yesterday, we are on Instagram at Rebel Walk. On Instagram at Rebel Walk. You can go through and see all the videos as well. Right now, there's only 3 videos available on the Instagram account, just because, it has to be manually uploaded. So we're going to fill that up as we go. We're not really going to go backwards with that. If audio is more your thing, you can catch us on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. Yeah, we're on other podcasts as well, but if we listed them all, we would be here for the whole show, and it's only like a 25-minute show, so that would take most of the time of the show. Before we get started, Matt Zenitz of On3sports.com. He's one of the writers for that new startup I was just telling you about from Shannon Terry. Posted that Ole Miss is expected to get a transfer from Orlando Umana, an former all-conference player from Utah.
Offense on the field for the first time, and the freshman quarterback Jason Shelley's first throw is incomplete as he was looking for 2nd and 10. He's got it off the left side, tripped up at the line of scrimmage, a short gain. Been good on 3rd down. Washington heating up the freshman. He was protected momentarily. Now extending the play. Burr Curvin races to the sidelines to bunt. If they've gone 3-0 without them. Britton Covey on the sweep, finds some room, and has a first down, the first of the game for Utah, crosses the 45. And Here they motion him out of the backfield and hand it off to Armand Shine, who's the man that's replaced Zach Moss at running back.
Once everything goes into fall camp and goes into like that, you'll be able to follow that a little bit more. But just real quick, Matt Zenitz on 3 Sports talked about a potential transfer target. You just saw the highlights of him, Orlando Umana from Utah. He's a class. He came into college football in class of 17, so he's likely a grad transfer as well. So, not that there's anything that can distinguish those at the moment because of the new transfer rule, but the grad transfer, there's not going to be many hurdles that you have to jump over for him to be eligible. So expect to see him center guard somewhere in the interior offensive line, and we're going to do a portal watch once this is official. But there you go. All right, today I want to talk about some of the things I want to see from this football team during this football season that can serve as a little bit of a harbinger of goodness to come down the pike. Number one, I want to see Matt Corral grow. And what I mean by that is I want the disaster games to go away. Whenever he has an awful game, which everybody's going to do that because we're all just human, I want it to be 2 or 3 interceptions instead of 6 or 5. If he does that, all of a sudden you've gained 6 possessions during the season and you're winning games that you're probably not expected to win. There's very few teams on the table with the way we play offense to where 2 or 3 interceptions would remove us from the game. This isn't 1985 football. I've explained how the offense works, and I intend to do that throughout the season and through the special guests that we have on the show. But I want to see the disaster games just get cut in half. Just getting cut in half. And if you do that, you will see everything start to tick up. Possessions start to tick up. Touchdowns start to tick up. The opponent touchdowns start to go down because the defense aren't in as bad a position. I mean, not a lot of people realize, but with like 3 minutes to go in that Arkansas game, the 6 interception game last year, we were down by less than a touchdown and had the ball to go down and score. So keep an eye on, cut the turnovers down. If you do that, we probably are going to be in very good shape. Second, I'd like to see, I know this one is crazy general, but I'd like to see the defense be somewhere between 60 and 80. Now, don't necessarily need a good defense. We don't need like 2010 Alabama floating out there at the moment. But I want a more consistent defense with less explosive plays against and more explosive plays for. And the combined total of that should be somewhere between 60 and 80. Because the whole purpose of this defense, as I've explained this to you, is for explosive plays, for turnovers. It's about stealing possessions. All of a sudden, you steal a possession, go down and score touchdowns like a run in basketball. If you want to run a little bit in football, next thing you know, it's a 21-point run, and all of a sudden the game's over. So it's a little bit more important that a run happens and steal those possessions. You don't have to be dominant to where you can stop them every single time. You don't need to be a 10 to 13 to 17 point coach. You need to be a 24 to 27 to 30 point coach defensively. That's all that's required with this offense and everything going on is to be at that level. So bring the defense between 60 and 80. If we can do that, I think we're in line for a very, very special season. Next up, find ways to get Jerry and Ely the ball. Now, I realized last year a lot of that was Elijah Moore was on the roster and he was a special, special player. But Jerry and Ely, with the ball in his hands, a very special athlete. Find ways to get him the ball. And that could mean lining him up sometimes at slot and doing some of the things Elijah Moore did. Line him up in the backfield. Put a pair with him and John Rice in the backfield. Ways to mess with the defense in order to get him a simple play in space. That's one thing I'm really looking forward to, because this being his year could be quite a boon for this offense. So if he's healthy, I would absolutely do that. Offensive line, they do a good job with the tempo and the fact that every play is basically an RPO. So the way they block is so a pass can be thrown. They're not going to get downfield too much. Sometimes they'll get caught doing that, but they're going to block every play as if it's a run play and then go. So there's going to be zone plays a little bit where the movement is left or right at the snap, so you don't go all the way downfield, and then you kind of catch a linebacker when he comes to fit. That's the way this works, and then you have that gap behind the linebackers. They want it to look like that. With a deep receiver on the outside, it starts spreading, and all of a sudden there's a 10, 15-yard gap in between linebackers in the middle of the field, designed by this offense. They're just different ways to attack that. And I want to see them mesh in an effective way and be a little bit more dominant. There's Nick Broker last year made Twitter a couple of times for making big plays, blocks downfield. I want to see them take a step as far as being a consistent blocking unit. And the way we do it is a little bit different. Like I said, we talked about this on the preview, the Arkansas preview. Let's see, with Kevin O'Bannon. And we talked about how at its core, this offense is a triple option offense. It's a different type of triple option. And they want to accomplish different things from the triple option. But these options on the table on every play, they're a very real thing. So that affects the linebacker. Everybody has to be all in doing this. And the tempo makes this very difficult to defend because of the options. The defense, whenever it's going, cannot be right. The only way to really stop this offense is for it to beat itself, like we did against LSU, like we did against Arkansas. The Alabama game, they just went up and down the field at will. We had a problem defensively. Remember what I said, defense 60 to 80. Against LSU, they went up and down the field. Offensively, 5 interceptions did us in. So essentially, we lost 2 one-score games that a combined 11 interceptions were thrown. And that's absolutely ludicrous. And like we talked about, Matt Corral taking the step and taking those disaster games and cutting them in half. Really looking forward to that happening. If that happens, this offense is going to take a step. With or without Elijah Moore. Dontario Drummond, Jonathan Mingo, Braylon Sanders on the outside. I'm interested in seeing that. I'm interested in seeing Braylon Brown get some reps. J.J. Henry. I want to see Ja'Cour Pearson in the slot. I want to see those guys like coalesce and become a dominant unit like they have the talent to be. I want to see Jonathan Mingo take the next step. We've been waiting on that to happen. He's got all the athletic ability in the world. Maybe this is his year to be the guy. I want to see Dontario Drummond on the other side. He started breaking loose at the end of last season. I want to see that continue. Now, offensively, we've got all kinds of plays, and our singular question mark at this point. And at this point, we don't know if it's a singular question mark because there's still obviously transfers coming in. But the tight end position. Now, when we look at the tight end position, we have like DeMarcus Thomas, who might be ready to play. But the goal with this offense is to attack that space behind the linebackers that I've described, and also block like a fullback. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, this is a run offense. that might lead to big plays in the pass game, but it's a run offense. We run the ball 60% of the time. And doing so quickly, people get lulled asleep and fall asleep by doing that, and it opens up other things to where we can just attack. The linebackers have to come in and stop the run. That leaves that gap between that and the free safety, which is widened by deep routes on the outside. Whenever that safety comes up to fill in that gap, all of a sudden the Lane Kiffin special plays on the outside are wide open. I mean, it's like Remember the Titans. It's like Novocaine. Works every time. But we're going to take a short break. I know there's been some people that miss our commercials, but they're out for a reason. There's a method to the madness. We're trying to replace them with other ads. We're working on some stuff right now for you guys, and a large part of that is going to be the ads. But we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to continue talking more on the defensive side of the ball, what we're looking for this year. Stick around. All right. Welcome back to the POMcast. I'm your host on this magical mystery tour we call Ole Miss fandom, Stephen Willis, right here. The first half of the show, we went over a potential transfer, and we went over what we're looking for on the offensive side of the ball. And before we get started, I do want to tell you about the rebelwalk.com. What is the rebelwalk.com? Well, Evelyn and her team do a fantastic job. They provide a subscriber-level experience for no money. All it costs is your time. And boy, oh boy, is it worth it. If you have any questions about it, go to therebelwalk.com. Again, that is therebelwalk.com. So we looked over the offensive side of the ball in the first part of the show. And other than wanting to see a team number in between 60 and 80 defensively. But there are several storylines in the defensive backfield that are worth paying attention to. One is the middle three in the back. And that'd be the three safeties, the star, the strong safety, and the free safety. Add in Tysheem Johnson, and all of a sudden you have something that can really provide a little bit of a spine of the defense, to steal a soccer term. You add them, you add Chance Campbell playing middle linebacker, and all of a sudden you add the defensive line, and you have a chance to cook with gas. But I want to see the way that these guys are used on the line of scrimmage and beyond, because we talked about this defense is about explosive plays and about turnovers. And a lot of ways that shows itself is through exotic blitzes. And you'll see a situation where both Jacob Springer and Otis Reese are on the line. You've got your down four, so you're sending, it looks like you're sending six, but you can send five based off of which one you want to go. If they mess up their protection, slide the wrong way, all of a sudden a quarterback that is used to having 2 seconds to throw has 1.3 seconds to throw, and he forces the ball into the middle of the field, is picked off by Keydron Smith, A.J. Finley, and all of a sudden the defense has done its job at stealing a possession. Or it is 2nd and 4 after a 6-yard run, and they drop back to complete a 5-yard pass. They get fooled, get sacked. All of a sudden it's 3rd and 12. Defense makes a stop. All of a sudden you're off the field. You've stolen a possession for the offense. If you do that against a team like Alabama, and the way the game went last year against Alabama, all of a sudden it's going to feel a lot different. We explained over and over why the defense looked like it did at the beginning of last season. You have no spring practice, no fall camp. All you have are basically weekly, like game week style practices from the very beginning with a completely brand new coaching staff, with completely brand new concepts that have never scouted a player, that has never looked at them on film. And then all of a sudden you can see all these areas of improvement that just popped up on the screen. And by the time the film evened out, the system got put in, everything got done. There was massive improvement by the defense by that point. But the damage early in the season was already done. It's a perception is reality thing. They perceived Ole Miss to have the worst defense ever. And this is the defense at the beginning of the season that confirmed that. We do not need to revisit that. It doesn't matter what's going on. Against Indiana, like I said, they played quite well. They were completely serviceable. And I really look forward to those extra players going to the back end, players like Tywan Malone, Isaiah Iton, Jamon Gordon up front, Chance Campbell, Manning linebacker. I mean, you're looking at 5 or 6 new players that have a chance to make an impact on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm looking forward to these new players and stepping into it. They've had a spring. They're going to have a full fall. By the time the first game hits, it's going to look completely different. You're going to see a much more organized defense. You're going to see a defense that are more capable of performing the tasks that are asked of them. Other than, sometimes there was just a player that they just missed on whether or not they could do this. And you saw this early last season. They had trouble with runs off tackle. It was a bad situation, and nobody says it. Nobody will say it was not. But there's a reason for that to happen. It's not an excuse. It's a reason. And that shouldn't get lost on people. There are good players on this defensive side of the ball. Now, after a full spring and a full fall camp and all that, they have a chance to show it. They also have better players. I'm looking forward to Tywan Malone as well on the defensive line. I'm looking for him to flash. I think, and this is my opinion, I think one of the JUCO guys are going to end up starting on the defensive line. I think Tywan Malone will flash this year, and next year that will be his position. This will be a year where he gets some playing time. Same thing with Tysheem Johnson. He's going to flash this year. Next year it's going to be his. Like I said, Tysheem has honey badger qualities. I'm not going to say he's the honey badger. I'm going to say he has the qualities that needs to be developed. He's a really good player. I'm looking forward to Chance Campbell. Honorable mention, all Big Ten linebacker. People worry about it, and I've had conversations with those that worry about the Big Ten coming to the SEC playing linebacker. I get that, but he was an athletic linebacker in the Big Ten. He wasn't just a statue back there playing 3-4 defense where the A gap and the B gap were the only two responsibilities, and you're going to ask that player to do something else. He was a fairly athletic guy in the Big Ten. So I don't view the transition to be quite as difficult as it could be. To some people, the SEC is this big mythical place where all kinds of things come to die when it comes to linebackers and defensive players. That's not true. A player that's born in the Northeast, a player that's born in the Midwest can play in the SEC just as well as anybody else can. And honestly, the style of play is more the reason for the the stereotype of the big plotting Big Ten player is the style of play. It's the type of players they need. If you're going to get a 2 or 3 star linebacker, he needs to be able to cover the A and the B gap. That's what you're going to ask him to do. You're not going to ask him to go sideline to sideline. If you did, it would be a horrible problem. But system of play is the major reason for all those rumors with the Big 12. That's not an issue necessarily with Chance Campbell. Maryland runs pretty similar stuff to Alabama. It doesn't mean they run it as well, but they run pretty similar stuff to where they ask the players to do the same thing. Chance Campbell, obviously, coming in linebacker, he was recruited by DJ Durkin at Maryland, so that familiarity would have helped as well. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes back. Thank you very much for watching today. Go over to Instagram, follow it, like it, whatever it's called, and you'll see this over there shortly. But I do appreciate you guys for sticking around. Hope you guys had a fantastic 4th of July, and I'll see you tomorrow. Howdy toddy.